The markets are panicking after the US and Iran started a major conflict. Now, I'm not a geopolitical expert, but from the looks of it, there is much more news panic than actual selling. Look at the stock market indices. The S&P and NASDAQ are doing fine. And oil prices, which are especially telling in this scenario, as we'll go into in a bit, it is not pointing to a major escalation. So in my view, there is a good opportunity to be buying crypto very soon. And today, I'll give you the summary on the latest global conflict developments and my price targets to buy the dip on Bitcoin and major altcoins that are heavily sold off. Okay, if you're new here to the channel, welcome. My name is Dennis. I'm a crypto angel investor for the past 6 years, and I have invested in over 100 crypto startups. On this channel, I share views on market trends and investing strategy to build wealth in crypto. So let me give you a brief summary of the current conflict and some places that you can follow this. I recommend you guys to just directly follow it yourself on X. A couple accounts I like to follow: Zero Hedge, Walter Bloomberg, and DB News Wire. These are usually very up to date. It's not exactly all market price data, but anything that impacts markets and the ones that are most impactful at a moment of time. So at the current moment, it is covering this conflict. So since this weekend, actually, the US carried out this operation on some military bases in Iran, I believe. Don't quote me on any of this. I'm not a expert on this stuff. But just today, this morning, very interesting stuff. So the Iranian government, one side of the branches, there's the supreme leader branch, and there is the kind of the more democratic side of, I'm not sure if it's even parliament or senate, whatever they have. They kind of broadcasted to the world before that we're going to, make a retaliation. And since this morning, they have been, releasing these news, such as preparing to fire missiles at U.S. bases in coming minutes, right? And then you have explosions heard near Qatar's capital, Doha. And earlier, we had the airspace of the UAE and another Middle East country that's been shut off. I believe it's Qatar. And so, yes, there have been attacks. However, two things that are interesting. Number one, why are both sides broadcasting these news to the world before doing it? First, just think about that. And second is the markets are not pricing these in. So if you look at just the stock indices, the S&P is up on the day. What's happening? So the S&P, the U.S. stock markets are closed over the weekend, and a lot of people were saying, "Oh, we're going to gap down on the S&P, on Nasdaq," and it hasn't been the case. So today, the S&P is up, the Nasdaq is up. So what is happening? I can't tell you the reason other than the traders, Wall Street, people that have money on the line, they're not buying into this. And the second is the second indicator that you should track is the oil prices. So the reason why the oil prices are very important in this scenario, in seeing how this escalation, how serious it is because of this thing called the Strait of Hormuz. You can just go ahead and Google this. There are million other videos you can find on this. But basically, this straight, very narrow pathway connects the Middle East, the largest supplying countries of oil. Their tankers go through this part of the, I believe it's the Persian Gulf, coming out of the Persian Gulf into the Indian Ocean and into the rest of the world. People say it accounts for 20% of the oil supply of the world. And this part, strategically, it's the top side is Iran and the bottom side is Oman, I believe. And Iran basically has the most power in controlling this narrow pathway. So they are threatening to shut this down, effectively cut off the oil supply from the Middle East to the rest of the world. And so that's all the extent you need to know on this. So that's why the oil prices are very important, because just think about, okay, if it actually escalates and Iran retaliates with this, basically as a one of their most outside of military arsenal, like economic arsenal, then the oil supply 20% to the world will be shut off, and then oil prices will go up. But look at this, on the day, oil prices are down. So basically all the traders, whether that's like risk on markets or oil markets that are, directly tied to this, they're not believing that there is a major escalation. So that's why in the intro I said, even though a lot of people are panicking and there's a lot of, just seemingly crazy news coming out, it doesn't seem like it's we need to worry, because the real money, the big money in Wall Street, they're not panicking. So that's why I think this is more likely than not going to blow over quite soon and present us a buying opportunity, especially on crypto and on altcoins that are heavily sold off, as crypto traders simply just, they don't read anything and they only look at headlines and they sell immediately. So that's why I think we got to look at some prices that are oversold and look to pick up some cheap coins soon. So that's all the background I'm going to give you guys. I don't think we need to look at this any further. All the previous geopolitical conflicts over the past 2 years, even 3 years, they were more serious than this. And all of those events blew away, right? At least on Bitcoin, it saw short-term volatility, but eventually it came back much stronger. So I think that's all we need to worry about, because none of us are, political experts to look at these news and then properly predict what's actually happening in a military sense. So we're not going to do more of that anymore. Okay, so then with that being said, let's look at the prices directly. So Bitcoin is just very strong in a macro sense. So I have already covered my stance on Bitcoin in this evergreen video that you can watch. This is basically my strategy for the next year and a half. And I have covered Bitcoin buying dips and targets over the past month and a half in each of the live streams. So you can just go ahead and watch those. But TLDR here is the long-term support, bull market support for Bitcoin is the 50-week simple moving average, SMA. So that currently is this dark blue line, and that's at 85K. So that is the bottom line. As long as Bitcoin stays above 85K on a weekly time frame, it doesn't close below there, we're in a bull market. And you don't need me to tell you that. Just zoom out over the past 2.5, 3 years. It stayed above this level and it continued creating higher highs and higher lows. That's a bull market. So we are definitely still in a bull market on Bitcoin. And what is a good buying range for cheap Bitcoin? In my view, that is the second average line here, the 20-week SMA. So usually on the last 3 corrections, back here, here, and here, Bitcoin went below the 20-week SMA, and then it basically went into a choppy period and even touched the 50-week SMA before establishing the next uptrend. So currently, this level is at 94.7K. And I have covered this already on the last 2 weeks ago on the live stream, 95K Bitcoin. I wasn't really saying that, Bitcoin, I think it's going to go down there for sure. But if Bitcoin goes to 95K, I'm going to buy, because that's a very good level. That is a, both from risk to reward ratio, you have an entry at 95 and then you just wait. And even if it drops a little bit further, you have a pretty close stop loss at the 50-week SMA. So your risk to reward ratio is quite high. And typically, if we do get a choppy period based on some event, based on, something like this happening in this global conflict, or whatever it is, Bitcoin tends to come to these levels, which are value ranges. So that's why I haven't bought any more Bitcoin yet, But if we get to 94.7, 95K, I'm going to look to load up quite a bit of more Bitcoin. So that's on the weekly, and there's not much more to talk about. You buy as long as Bitcoin stays above 50-week SMA, and if it touches the 20-week SMA, you start buying. You start scaling into your position. That's what I plan to do. So that's the weekly. Now, in the immediate daily time frame, this is a little bit worrying, and that's why I haven't bought in the dip yet, because clearly there is some sort of a double top being printed. And if you guys know any TA at all, so in order to confirm a double top, you need to have the neckline being broken. So the neckline is roughly here, where you had the first, let's say shoulder or top, whatever, support range here, and now it went below the support range, and now it's coming back up. So in my view, this looks like a bearish retest of this neckline of the double top structure. So I would say that looking at the daily time frame, what's more likely is for this bearish retest to go this way and then get a rejection, and then we had to maybe this block that we had a little bit of a consolidation before here. That's around 94 to 95K. And that will match the 20-week SMA as well. So I think that's a good probability for this to happen. Yeah, so that's why I haven't bought yet. I'm waiting for this to happen before buying. Now, let me make this very clear. I'm not bearish on Bitcoin, okay? This is only from current price, a 7% dip if it happens. I think that's about as lucky of an entry as we'll get. I hold a ton of Bitcoin. I hold like 60% of my portfolio in Bitcoin now. I just want to add more if it drops more. So if you already are positioned in Bitcoin, do not sell and try to get 7% more Bitcoin. That's not worth it. Okay, don't sell, don't short. But if you have cash on the sidelines and you want a good value range, I think 95K, that is about the most fair range at the current moment. So that's what I want to do. Focus on buying more in the dips, but there's absolutely no need to sell the Bitcoin you already have if you have a position. So that's all I want to do here. Okay, clear on Bitcoin. Next, let's look at Ethereum. So Ethereum actually already hit our target almost on the daily time frame yesterday. The major panic led us almost to 2100. So you see this chart, right, is actually from the same chart that I had here, I think, 1 month ago on this live stream. Just gonna play this muted here. Yeah. Ethereum right here. So here. So the 236 Fibonacci retracement, ideally 2000, just below 2100. And you see, we already came there a little bit. So it depends on how this week goes. If Bitcoin doesn't make a larger correction below 100K, maybe this is it. So in that case, anywhere around 2100 will be totally fine to scale in. If Bitcoin makes a bigger correction, then we might even get below 2000. But honestly, I think this is all fair game right now. Anything around 2100 is a good buy. So if you've been waiting to buy more Ethereum, you're already quite good to start buying now and continue to buy around this 2100 level. So I'm not too worried about how far this can go, because this previous low that we have is so much lower. It's, what is this, 1400? There's no way we're getting there. So an even closer invalidation level is on the ETH BTC chart. So you see ETH BTC has been showing a first signs of a uptrend that we had for the past 2 years. So what we need Ethereum to hold in order to be bullish is to hold a higher low on this ETH BTC ratio. So the last low that Ethereum made against Bitcoin is 0.018. So we don't want Ethereum to come back down like this. Okay, even something like that, that wouldn't look too good. Ideally, we want it to bounce before reaching these lows again. So that would be my invalidation of ETH versus Bitcoin instead of ETH USD ratio. So that's why so far so good. This is the main thing that we really need Ethereum to hold, and it's still holding that. So whatever this next dip is at, as long as we make a comeback and bounce back above the previous low on ETH BTC, that's totally fine. That means Ethereum is still outpacing Bitcoin, and this is a macro uptrend for Ethereum that has only started 2 months ago. Okay. Next, let's look at Solana. So Solana is actually a little bit weaker than Ethereum. If you look at my last same live stream that I made 1 month ago, we also covered Solana there. So I only wanted to see a dip to around $140 on Solana right here, because there was this kind of reversal pattern. If we bounced from 140, that would have been a inverse head and shoulder. So something like, let me just clear all of this. This is too messy. This, boom. So something like shoulder, head, and then shoulder with a neckline like this. That would be around 140, but this is getting broken down a bit already, especially if you compare this to the chart of Ethereum. It's a little bit weaker. So I would say Solana is already near its value range, especially if you look at Solana Bitcoin. Yes, so Solana Bitcoin is already touching the previous low that we made in April. So you see, last low we made in April, this exact wick is 0.00127, and we already wicked there. So really, if Solana is going to make a comeback later this year and actually outperform Bitcoin and be worthwhile to hold versus holding just entirely in Bitcoin, then it needs to bounce literally right now. It needs to start going up and at least outperform Bitcoin. So let's say Bitcoin drops 5%, we can't have Solana drop more than 5%. And if Bitcoin bounces back 10%, we need Solana to at least bounce back 10%. In order for SOL BTC to still respect this, I guess, sideways trend, if it outperforms Bitcoin even by a little bit, let's say it does something like this, then that wouldn't be good, because that would be macro downtrend that is basically 6 months long now, right? Low, high, lower low, lower high. We don't want to see another lower low here. That would be really bad, especially when Ethereum is starting its uptrend against Bitcoin already. Why would Solana be in a downtrend against Bitcoin? That wouldn't look good at all. Okay, so that's why you can look at it both ways. If you are a Solana bear, I mean, this is looking like kind of iffy, but personally, I'm a Solana bull. So I think Solana should respect this range, and it's already a very cheap price to be buying Solana. So I would say you don't need to wait much longer. We are already below 140. I don't think Solana should go to these 100 lows anymore. I think anywhere 110, 120 is all very cheap. Below 140, all good value ranges. So that's why I'm not selling my Solana. If I don't have a Solana position already, I would be buying right now. Okay, the last large cap that's very interesting is XRP. So XRP, I have already covered my buying target in a live stream already as well, right here. So my target there on dollar value is around $1.80, and it comes from a estimate for how much of a retrace that the XRP to BTC ratio can get. So TLDR there is that typically in this cycle so far, we have seen large altcoins make a retrace on their BTC ratio chart to around these 0.382 Fibonacci retracement. So that's why back here, I said I wasn't going to buy XRP. I'm going to wait until XRP goes back down to retest these levels against Bitcoin, something like 0.000017. So from current level, that is another 13% downside on XRP BTC ratio. So what does that translate to on dollar value? Very simple. So if Bitcoin stays at current price 103,000, then that would mean XRP dropping 13% to $1.74. And that would be good enough for me to scale in. And that would look pretty nice, actually, because that would be basically the peak of this last wick here. So still not completely invalidating the last low here. And if Bitcoin drops a bit further, let's say below 100K again, then XRP could even drop lower than that. Personally, this is just my target for when I think XRP is cheap, so that I'll buy and hold it for my long-term portfolio. I think XRP will come back up this cycle and reach $5 plus, but I really just want to make a good entry here in order to have like worthwhile returns, because I'm targeting around $5, and if I can't even get a 3x on that, I don't know why I would do it. I would just hold more Bitcoin anyways. So yeah, that's why I'm waiting a little bit more, but I think we're getting pretty close. You know, XRP is already dropping against Bitcoin. I'm not saying I call this, but yeah, I think patience here is really paying off. So not rushing into this yet. Ideally want to see this play out first. Okay, so these are the major large caps that everyone should have in their portfolio: Ethereum, Solana, XRP. And then some other ones, interesting altcoins that are strong in their sector. Their sector is popular, they're the sector leader, but they have been heavily sold off in this panic from this like weird geopolitical news wave. So just the same altcoins that we have in our portfolio, you can check with the first link in my bio. We have the leading gaming coin, the leading AI coin, leading meme coin, and some decentralized exchange coins as well. So we'll just go over those right away. First, we have BitTensor Tau. So Tau hasn't dropped that much yet. Here is the chart of Tau. So we are currently at 320. The value range here is actually very easy to find. If you want to draw just a very ideal entry, you want to get the middle of this range, which was the last three corrections. It all stopped right at this support range between 170 to around 230. So if you can get an average entry of around 200, that would be ideal. Are we going to see that just from this bit of panic? I'm not completely sure on that. So I would say I wouldn't target here exactly. Instead, want to be a little bit more conservative on how deep this dip can get. And in my mind, basically 175 right here, this is the long-term support that needs to hold. So I don't want to target this as my entry. I only want to use this as my stop loss. So as long as BitTensor stays above 175, bull trend continues. And value range, then we can target something like this. So you see there's a little bit of a inverse head and shoulders. You can target the neckline right around there, 250 range. Anything below 250, let me make this a little bit clearer. Okay, like that. And let me just take that out. Shoulder, head, shoulder, something like that. So anything around 250 would be good, very good value. Because there's significant support, and then you can target 170 as a very long-term stop loss, because that hasn't been broken for, how long is this? 18 months now. So you have a very good chance for that to hold. So I'm not buying yet, but let's say Bitcoin drops to 95K, we should see BitTensor somewhere around 250 again. And that will be a really good buy. If you are a fan of BitTensor, if you're a fan of AI coins, this is the leading AI coin. Okay, next, the leading gaming coin is Superverse. You guys know this is one of my favorite coins. And it actually has a very similar chart to that of Tau. It's a little bit closer to the range, which makes it a bit easier to get into literally right now. So you see this range. Let's just give it a weekly frame. Has held over 18 months already from 37 cents to around 47 cents. So anywhere in this range is really good value. And 37 is basically the 2-year long support that hasn't been broken. So in a smaller time frame, you can look at the same kind of setup where you have a not really inverse head and shoulders, but there's only 2 lows. So this will be a double bottom pattern. So the neckline is right around there, 58 cents, and we are already below that at 53. So all of this is good entry already. If you only take this previous range, well, why is that blocking it out? If you only take this range like this, and let's make it blue here. Boom. Okay. And let's say we get an average entry in the middle of this range, something like 47 cents. We already hit there a bit. So if Bitcoin drops below 100K again, just keep accumulating in this range with a stop loss below 37 cents. Very high chance for that to hold. And as long as it holds, as long as, gaming comes back, bull market comes back, Bitcoin bounces back, this is going to bounce back to a higher high. Pretty simple, especially with the catalyst events coming up, with the launch of the black hole DEX, with a lot of gaming projects migrating to the black hole exchange, being backed by the AVAX Foundation. There's going to be a lot more interest coming into for people to stake Super and to get involved in the ecosystem. So a lot of the opportunities will come from holding and staking and using the Super token as well. So that's why I think it's a good time. If you have been following gaming, basically we are in a very good value range to be buying. Okay. The other gaming coin that's actually, I do want to mention a little bit, that hasn't been doing that well is Beam. So I do hold Beam a very small amount in my portfolio. This coin, it's kind of a love-hate relationship that I have with it because on one hand, the Beam token hasn't been doing well. I'm down 60% on it. And the position is literally worth a very small amount now. But on the other hand, the Beam team is actually very solid because they have brought 2 very good opportunities that I have shared with our community over the past 2 years. So about a year and a half ago, they had this project that they helped co-launch called Aether. So this is one of the largest DePIN projects today. Hello, refresh. Yeah. So we did the Aether token node sale, and this yielded over 2x return from the initial airdrop and the node rewards over 1 year. So this was good. Even though prices are down, because the valuations were very good in the node sale, it turned out to be quite good. And we did this one. I personally made a good bag on this. And then last year, I did the SoFarm project by farming it. Let's see if I can get this up. Well, whatever. Okay. So I'm going to show you right here. So in my trading Telegram, this was from July last year. So 11 months ago, I deposited a decent amount into the SoFarm token farm. This was very early. And I didn't want to post about this too much in the public because the only way to get into this was to farm and not to buy the token at launch, because these tokens, they will dump after TGE like every other new token. But in this farm, I think the valuation that I was able to get ultimately was around 200 million. So this coin went to like 800 million. And I got a lot of the tokens unlocked at TGE. This is not from like some private thing, some angel investment. This is like a public farm opportunity, kind of like a public sale that they did. So these are all very good, similar to the Aether token sale. So I will continue to follow the Beam project, follow their team, and see what kind of projects they come up with. Because usually these coins, they list on Binance, they list on all the major exchanges, and they are able to get pretty good launch prices with good vesting. So I like them, but I don't know why this doesn't translate to their token, their main token doing well. It's just what it is. So yeah, I hold a little bit of Beam, but I wouldn't say this is a good buy right now because it just keeps going in a downtrend. However, if you guys want to do follow what kind of other projects they have coming up, follow me on Twitter or X at VirtualBacon0x. I tend to tweet a lot more about their opportunities because people on Twitter, they just understand how to do these things a lot better. Whereas for YouTube videos, like I never mentioned buying Aether or buying Solana because these coins, for new TGE coins, they always go down. So that's not a good idea. But if you are able to get in one of these farming campaigns, that's usually quite good. Okay, so that's Beam. At this point, I'm kind of writing it off a bit on my portfolio and just doing their other projects instead. Let's see, what else is interesting here? Some coins that I haven't mentioned in a while. So APTOS. Let's see if I can get this up. So APTOS is actually quite cheap considering where it's at. So this isn't immediately obvious, but if you look at the APTOS chart in depth, you see we're basically near the channel lows that basically APTOS has been fluctuating in since it existed. Okay, and what the APTOS team, they really are able to do quite well is catch on to like trends and waves. So if you think about the first time that when APTOS launched, this was during the bear market when there weren't that many new layer ones, and they were the shiny new layer ones. So they made their first wave, and then people sold off. And then October 2023, right when Bitcoin started the bull run, they caught on another wave, and this was a 3.5x return, 250%. And then it sold off again, back down to the bottom of this channel. And then down here, this was August of last year. This was when Sui got really popular. And then APTOS followed up because they also used the Move programming language, the Move technology stack, and it did another 3.5x. So now we are again touching the bottoms of this range. And there are a couple of scenarios that could play out next. Because the Move ecosystem isn't that popular anymore. Currently, what's really popular is RWAs, it's still AI, and it's stablecoins. So some interesting news that just came out last week. So the US just passed the Genius stablecoin bill, and you have Circle being, I don't know, like super crazy valuation. You have Tether potentially launching their own chain. And then you have the US state government actually is doing a stablecoin project called WIST, or however you pronounce this. And they actually tested specifically APTOS and Solana as the two preferred blockchains that could be used for the US state government stablecoin. Now, are they actually going to do this? I don't know. But they actually did a test, and APTOS was the top score on this for a public blockchain. Maybe this is their next narrative. So I wouldn't be surprised if in a couple months, right, when this stablecoin craze really picks up, all the new chains start to, to say that we're the stablecoin chain. Look at us. We power Tether, or we power whatever, our own stablecoin, or we're working with like USD1, like you see on BNB chain, or maybe we're working with the US state stablecoin, however big this will become. But yeah, these guys are very good at catching onto hype waves. So that's why I think this is a good range to be getting into APTOS and looking at it. Long term in the macro, APTOS is in a downtrend. So each time that it touches the top of this range, you got to sell. And yeah, it already played out 3 times. So there's no reason to say, oh, we're going to hold APTOS for long-term portfolio. But risk to reward here is really good because these ranges have been good buying ranges for the past 2.5 years. So that's why I'm targeting APTOS and following what they're doing with the stablecoin narrative. Okay, another one that I haven't covered in a while, but is very good because it's quite sold off, is BORG. So again, this isn't very obvious, but let's look at the BORG chart in depth. So you see here, this is the BORG chart. Again, a very similar parallel channel that has been going consistently in an uptrend for 2 years exactly. And each time that it came down to the bottom of this channel, that was a good level to buy, right? Because if they are going to show a consistent uptrend, it needs to respect each of these higher lows. So the last higher low we made is right here at 14.5 cents. So that gives us a very good risk to reward here because we have a stop loss right below 14.5 cents. Currently it's at 18 cents. That's not too far away. And what's really interesting about BORG is they are one of the only competitor exchanges to Jupiter, to Meteora that actually powers Solana, but they also connect to all major chains that people like to trade on in a mobile-friendly app. This app that they have been running for over 5 years now. So they support Base, so they support Solana, Hyperliquid, AVAX, Ethereum mainnet, all the chains that people actually trade on. And this means their business is heavily related to market activity, to trading volume, to market revenue. And that's why you see each time that the market picked up, their coin did quite well. The first wave, starting from October 2023 until April 2024, this was when Bitcoin was running quite high and all the altcoins were popular. And then it came down because the summer months were slow. And then by end of October, this was when Trump won the election. Again, we had a wave of high trading volume. So their coin did well again. And then we're now in a downtrend because coin prices hasn't been doing that well. Volume has been down. But essentially the next time that Bitcoin goes up or, altcoins get popular again based on some catalyst event, their volume should tick up again and so should their coin performance. So that's why I think these ranges are quite good if you want to bet on a revenue-based business that also has a good narrative going for it because it's a direct competitor to Jupiter, to Solana's top exchange. Really, there are only a couple competitors that matters right now. Okay, so that's BORG with the BORG token. Last but not least, meme coin. In my opinion, all you need right now is PEPE. PEPE is still at 3.9 billion valuation, but looking at price charts, this has been very similar to BitTensor Tao's chart and to Superverse's chart that we have just shown. Basically, this range has held for, how long is this? 15 months. So the lows on PEPE is around 0.5. This is 1,000 PEPE. So the actual numbers are going to be lower decimal places, but in order to actually have it show up, I'm using the 1,000 PEPE perpetual, so kind of a bigger number per unit price. So if we use similar analysis we had before, where we take this previous low that we made in April, that's at, let's just say 0.5, and we zoom in a little bit and see we have a take away this drawing. Here we go. We have a double bottom pattern. You can even say this is another shoulder and shoulder, something like that. So this reversal pattern, the neckline, is right around there. You see the resistance here, resistance here, resistance here, broken out and now being tested as support. So that is at 0.9, and we are basically exactly at that level now. So I would say PEPE is at a good level to be buying. If you want to use a similar methodology that we were using earlier, you can draw a value range from the previous low until this neckline breakout and use all of this range and just target kind of the middle of this range. So that would be somewhere around 0.7, right? Like this. So if we want to buy PEPE, I would start to scale in below 0.9 and then try to get an average entry around 0.7. That would be really nice because we have a very strong support at 0.5. And if PEPE breaks below there, that would be essentially bear market and we don't want to hold it anymore. As long as it holds above there, that's a 1.5 year long uptrend that continues to hold. So very easy hold and very clear levels. For all the trade setups, we will be doing this as live stream updates. If these play out next week or the week after, every Monday, we'll do another live stream. So make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next live stream for these trade setups and updates. And follow me on X at VirtualBacon0x. This is where I will be posting my, degen stuff, farming opportunities, airdrops, meme coins, whatever, with less than 10% of my portfolio. These things really play out way too quickly, less than 1 week at a time. So there's no reason that I should ever post about them on YouTube because it's always too late. So follow me on X if you want that kind of trades. And that's it. Thank you guys for joining, and I will see you on the next video.